Hi everyone, and welcome to another monthly update. Slightly delayed this time, but with a lot of interesting topics to talk about. Everything from 3D printing to new electronics projects to updates on existing projects and how I will finish them. Let's directly get into it. So first of all, I was doing a lot of resin 3D printing this last month. Which also means that I got a lot of experience. I got more experience, and I think I started to figure it out by now, like how to properly prepare a print file to make it print properly. But yeah, I also was experimenting a bit with like all kinds of different materials, including using metal powder in a 3D print, which in theory sounds great. Until you realize that in practice it only works up to a certain amount of metal powder. And even then it's creating a total mess to clean up afterwards. So it's like one of these things I do not recommend doing. Anyhow. So yeah, one of the things I was mostly busy with was building new prototypes. For example, the glowing wristband. Started with a very flexible case design just to get a feeling of how it feels around the wrist, the size of it more precisely. But I quickly didn't realize that I probably don't want to print the flexible water protective case around the LED strip with this 3D printer, at least not with the resin that I had at that point. So instead I then switched to focusing on a hard case for the electronic components, where then the LED strip with an already existing water protection wrap gets inserted and then fixed inside. So I continue with those prototypes, also then realizing that I really need to add buttons of some kind to allow people to easily switch between animations without taking out their phone all the time, which is very unpractical if you have to do that all the time. It's perfectly fine if you want to, set up animations and customize them, when you have some time. But like when you're out there dancing at a party, for example, you don't want to take out your phone all the time for this. In the latest prototype that I built, I really tried to not only make it more compact, make it more comfortable around the arm, also including all the electronic parts, including a microphone. But I also wanted to do it in a way where I don't have to use any hot glue or glue in general. Because this is just gonna make things messy and not very precise, especially when it comes to using hot glue. Yeah. So I basically tried to create a different kind of design to integrate the buttons with a kind of a clipping mechanism. And it's still something I need to work on a bit more, and also need to figure out if I really want to use physical buttons, since it's a little bit more complicated to integrate them into a case design, especially since it's so compact. Or instead, maybe I want to use some touch buttons, which also would help a lot with making it more easily water protected, so that you don't have to worry about washing your hands with the wristband. So yeah, I still need to do some experimentation in this direction. And speaking of updating projects from the past, I have been already pushing away the upgrade of my glowing bike for quite a while. And now was really about time. Critical mass was about to happen, which is this huge bike demonstrations where hundreds or even thousands of people go out on the street, drive with their bike across the city with a lot of music also, which is a super lovely event. And there are also quite a few people who have LEDs on their bikes for good reasons. And so yeah, it was really time that I fixed the LEDs on my bike, because they haven't been working for months now. And so step one was to remove the acrylic case around the external battery, which was expectedly a huge hassle to do, since it also was quite difficult to get it into the bike. And after that, I just wanted to solder something quickly and temporarily onto the bike to make it work again. So I added just a new microcontroller. And yeah, note to future me: never ever again solder something directly onto the bike but instead solder something on a desk where you have the equipment, where it's comfortable to work on, and then find a good way to like connect it to the bike in a protected case. Well, I haven't done any of those things, so as a result, the connection didn't last very long, and LEDs haven't been glowing for the critical mass the way I wanted them to do, which is a bummer. But I've been still like glitchy glowing basically because the wire connection wasn't very stable, since there was a lot of stress on the wire and so it got damaged. Anyhow, learning for the next time. Speaking of next time, basically the idea for the glowing bike update is that I have LEDs on the front wheel, LEDs on the back wheel, basically both showing to the left and showing to the right side, so I can show turn directions. So when I want to turn left, it glows to the left. If I want to turn right, it glows to the right. Also gonna have LEDs in the front and in the back. So basically the idea is that you have, like with a car, you can have the same LEDs glowing like with a car, the same colors. But also they can change to rainbow mode when I'm not like driving on the street, for example, or when I'm like driving on critical mass, when street safety isn't that #1 priority basically. So as I said, I also did a lot of 3D printing this last month. And while I really love the Resin 3D printer, there's one big flaw that I still need to address, and that I did started to address in this month, and that's the smell. Like the resin just creating a lot of fumes, which are toxic, which you do not want to breathe in. And so I started to design a case for the 3D printer, since that seems to be really the last logical option to actually get rid of this problem. So I designed in Shaper 3D like a acrylic case where I put like multiple acrylic plates next to each other, connect them with most likely some 3D printed connectors and some screws. And in the back I'm gonna have some air vent basically that's sucking out the air from that case and forwarding it towards the window basically, and out of the window. Something I need to then also cut and then possibly 3D print some parts in the next few days, but it's something really important to do, since while it might be a temporary solution to just open up the window all the time and wear a mask for myself, but even that's not a solution, and it certainly is not a long-term solution either. So yeah, that's what I started working on as well. So let's talk about the Glowing Stripes project, and since it's being part of it, also the Glowing Core project. I was for the first time building prototypes of the Glowing Stripes for a friend of mine, and it was really interesting to see like how we were then basically building up together the DIY version of the Glowing Stripes project step by step, and where there have been still some issues remaining, and it turns out the Glowing Core case, which at that point was like made out of 3 parts, made it unnecessarily complicated to sort everything together. So I further improved that by simplifying it to just 2 pieces, 1 top and 1 bottom case, also giving people way more space to solder, and just makes everything a lot easier. So yeah, that was really good feedback to get. Well, and then I also built a few Glowing Stripes for at home. So basically 4 pieces of the Glowing Stripes project, 2 with 1 meter LED strip on top and 2 with 2 meters LED strip on top. And well, it was an interesting experience, I guess, building everything up together. And at first it also looked really nice for the most part. However, it was already noticeable to see the main issue that I already had for months now was still unsolved. And that's that basically it's bending. Like this support structure, there's like this triangle that goes into the case and like into the aluminum profile to connect the aluminum profiles where the LED strips are on together with the base unit. It's just not thick enough and not stable enough if you like 3D print it. except at least if you're not using like a metal 3D printer. In that case, it probably would be super stable and it wouldn't bend and everything's fine. But the thing is, it's not exactly practical. Like metal 3D printers are super expensive, and people don't really have access to them. And if you like go to one of these websites where you can order things made out of like a 3D printed metal, it's getting ridiculously expensive. So yeah, what does it mean for the project now? Well, there has to be a point when one has to realize that it just doesn't really make sense to continue working on this. So what I do now is I finish up the project. I will make everything open source that I built so far, all the 3D models, including files for like the 3D printer and also editable step files. And also write a short tutorial how those people who want to build it themselves can build it basically. And honestly, like for like the 1 meter version, I think it's fine. Like it does bend a little bit, but it's fine. However, like with these 2 meter versions, you're gonna notice the effect of the bending much stronger up to the point when it just breaks. So this is why I do not really recommend like building it for like 2 meters. Regardless, it's not the product quality I would be comfortable like selling on Etsy or somewhere. And this is why I choose the way of like just making everything open source. And it's like take the learnings from this project and build an even better project that's similar to this one. Introducing the glowing tube. So I've been visiting a friend of mine a few weeks ago who was working on this LED tube project. And it really gave me thinking that this form factor of using an acrylic tube to have LED strips inside not only looks really beautiful, but also is like solving a lot of issues that I had when it comes to stability of the glowing stripes. And also just looks nicer if everything is inside that case, inside that tube basically. So this is what I'm gonna do basically as a replacement for the glowing stripes after I made everything from the glowing stripes open source and wrote this short manual. The other main project, however, as I mentioned earlier, in the coming month is going to be the glowing wristband. So I will continue work on more prototypes and also figure out if I want to use physical buttons or touch buttons to basically switch between the different modes and yeah, finish up the case design. And speaking of designing and 3D printing parts, so far I was always using Shaper 3D for modeling all the cases and so on. And it worked certainly better than the software I used before that, Tinkercad. But I kept having issues over and over again, both with like that it's super buggy, but also that it was very tricky or unnecessarily tricky, let's say this way, to make changes to an existing 3D model basically. And then I started researching and found out that I should have been using Fusion 360 from Autodesk all along. It's a way more powerful software for CAD, which is like one of the professional defaults, like if you're like doing serious professional work with CAD. And I had good reasons for that. And despite that, there is a free plan which is actually usable, unlike with Shaper 3D, where it was costing quite a bit of money every month, at least on my standards. So like having a free software that's that's even more powerful and better to use, it's kind of a no-brainer. So yeah, I started switching now from Shaper 3D to Fusion 360, and that also means that new designs I will completely start in Fusion 360. And this is going to be really exciting to me. It also should make it way easier to yeah, just build better cases in general and be aware of things like where to put wires and how much space they take and how thick and how small the case actually can and has to be, and so on and so forth. Yeah, so that's also what I'm going to look forward to. So yeah, to summarize what I'm going to do in the next month. First of all, I'm going to finish the 3D printer case, like finishing up the design and then actually laser cutting it and also possibly 3D printing some parts to connect the acrylic plates with each other. And Really looking forward to this, both because it, is both for my and other people's health, but also because it allows me to work again next to the 3D printer, like on doing electronic stuff, without constantly having to wear that mask, which is also an important thing. And besides that, I'm gonna work on the glowing wristband, make more prototypes, figure out if I'm gonna use touch buttons or physical buttons, and finish up the case design. And, well, update my bike with some proper LEDs this time, both at the front, the wheels, and the back, and the wheels. And plus I'm also thinking about adding some attachment to add some speakers to the back, which is also gonna be, should be great for critical mass as well. And beyond that, as I mentioned, I'm gonna finish up the Glowing Stripes project, make everything open source, write a simple tutorial. There's not gonna be a video about it, but a written tutorial that I put on the Git repo. And after this, I'm gonna, continue basically then building the first prototype of the glowing tube, which is basically the next level or the next version of the Glowing Stripes. Just, taking all the learnings from the previous version of the previous project and not repeat the same mistakes basically, and making something that's way better. I'm really looking forward to that in the next few weeks. Realistically speaking, the glowing arms like 2.0 is going to be the first project that I will be also then selling on Etsy. I have no doubt about that actually. The question is more like how long will that take? I hope to finish it in July. We'll see. And then in the end, there's also one more thing. If I have the time for that, I will then also start working on adapting the WLED library, which I now use on all my LED projects, and basically adding my custom front end that's like way easier to use, where I have like a way better overview of all the different LED strips and the animations, and basically adapting the WLED library. That's something I also want to start doing this month. We'll see how far I can go there, if it's going to happen this month or next month otherwise. So hope to see you next month in the monthly update, and up to then, have a good time. Bye.